In order to cover pagination, we're going to need a little bit more data. So let's open up our terminal and say art tinker, and we'll say post factory, and how about we create 200? We can do heaps of them. And then we'll call create on that. And there we go. Once that's done, I'll open up Postman, and we'll go to our index route and call that. And you'll notice that we get a whole bunch of posts here. But we're interested in this part here, the links and the metadata section as well. And that's got some really handy data to help us scaffold out pagination on the front end. So in this video, I'm going to show you how we might use that data to create a front end, but I'm not going to build the front end because I'm assuming you have those skills already. I just want to sort of go through this data and help you to understand it, because it would be a shame for you to have this metadata section and this link section, but not actually know how to utilize it. So it was definitely worth creating a video that covers that kind of stuff. And if you already understand it, go ahead and skip it. All right, so first of all, I'm going to copy this link section within Meta, because this is what you would use in order to create that pagination front end. So now I'm going to open up Miro. This is just a whiteboarding tool that I use to help me visualize things. And there we go. I've pasted all of them in there. And what you would do is you would grab the link section. So this is an array, and you would iterate over every single object within the link section. And if the URL is equal to null, then that button would be disabled. You would use the label in order to label the button, of course. And then this active field here tells us whether or not it's the field we're currently on. So notice that active for the first one is set to true, and that lets us know that we're on page 1 to begin with. So let me show you what that might actually look like on the front end. First of all, we grab this first one, and it would be disabled because the URL is equal to null. Its label would be equal to previous, like so. And since active is set to false, it would just be a normal button. We wouldn't add any coloring to it or anything like that. Now, for button 1, let me just resize that a little bit and put the number 1 in there. You might want to use this active property here to change the color. So maybe that would be blue. And then maybe you'd make it bold and set the text to white, something like that on the front end. And then we can copy this over. And the rest of it I'm going to do really quickly behind the scenes so that you don't have to watch me do it. So there we go. We'd very easily have a previous button and numbers 1 through to 10, and we'd easily be able to color the button that is currently active using this active prop here. So let's grab all of this and go down a little bit. All right, so everything I've showed you right now has gotten us up to this point here. Then you'd have this really cool section that's got those 3 dots there. So let's have a look at what that would look like. It would just be 3 dots like so. This would be disabled because there is no URL. It's set to null. And of course, active is set to false there. Let's move on to the next one. Now, it gives us numbers 14 and 15. So these are going to be the last numbers. And the cool thing about that is that it tells the user how many pages there are in total. So if we had a whole lot more records, then that might say, for example, 120, 121, if there were 121 pages in total. So we get a lot of value just within this array here. And then the last button that we would have here is the next button. So that would be next with those 2 arrows pointing over to the right. And that simply takes us to the next page. So notice that we've got here question mark, page is equal to 2. So if we were to click on that link, then it would take us to the next page, and then 2 would have active set on it. And I'm going to show you what those requests look like in a second. So let's go back to Postman and have a look at what else we have. So if I scroll up here, before the link section, we've got the current page there, which is equal to 1. And that's just kind of another way of showing you which one is active. We've also got from, which tells us that we're going from page 1 through to page, and let me just scroll down here, from 1 through to page 15, or sorry, from record 1 through to record 15. And scrolling back up again, what else have we got? It's also telling us what the last page is. So it's very easy to indicate to the user what the last page is. And then if we scroll right down to the bottom here, it's also telling us that there are 15 records per page, and we have a total of 215. So you can imagine you could have that 215 somewhere, just indicating to the user how many records there are in total. So this is really handy information that we're given for free on all of these requests. So let's have a look at what it looks like when we click on one of these buttons. So let's just say we click on the button with a label of 6. It simply adds question mark, page is equal to 6. So basically it's like saying the page is equal to 6. And in Postman, rather than doing it that way, let me just close that out there. You could even just write it up here. Question mark, page is equal to 6. So let's send that through and have a look at what happens. Right, so if we scroll down here, we can now see that our current page is 6. And that takes us from record 76, from the record 76 through to record 90. All right, it's giving us all of that extra information. And you'll notice here that on our labels, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 has now got active set to true. So hopefully all of that is making sense. If it's not, watch this one again and sort of pause it and play it as you need to understand how pagination works. But basically, if you set up the links how I've shown you here, you basically have pagination, fully featured pagination, ready to go for free out of the box. And then when you were to, if you were to click on 3, for example, you could send an AJAX request, and then using this data that you get in return, you could then update what you have down the bottom here. Or if you're using Laravel views, I think they've even got some pagination helpers as well. But anyway, that kind of goes beyond the scope of this video. The last thing that I wanted to show you is a way to disable pagination in case you're simply not interested in using it, especially if you have a request that is grabbing a very small set of data and you know that it's always going to be a small set of data. Well, in that case, let's go back to our editor, close that off, and I'll come down here and say use. Oh, really this should be on top of here. Use disable pagination. So you'll notice that Orion has got a disable pagination concern. That is literally all you have to do to disable pagination. Pull in the trait, use it here, and now if we go back to Postman, and then we'll just get rid of this page part here, and we run that query again, notice that we've got the data still, but if I come right down to the bottom, there is no metadata anymore. We've lost all of that pagination functionality, which might be what you want for some of your routes. Now, just to be clear though, that's not stopping you from adding in metadata for other information or adding in other fields here. So notice that data is still sitting inside of an object. So it's not, notice that they're not just sending us the data straight, it's still nesting data within this object, and the benefit there is that we still have the power to add other kinds of metadata if we need to. So there we go. That's how you use pagination using Laravel Orion. Honestly, these aren't really Orion features. This is more Laravel related features, but I thought it was quite relevant if you're learning about this stuff. And in the next video, we're going to talk about soft deletes and how you can implement them using Laravel Orion. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.